Let me start with something bold. Confidence isn't something you wait to feel, it's something you choose to embody, especially when you're stepping back into the dating world. Your confidence is not optional. It's your armor, your compass, your superpower. I know what you might be thinking. I've been out of the game too long. Or what if I'm not good enough anymore? Let me stop you right there. That's fear talking. That's the voice of past rejection, of cultural programming, of outdated narratives trying to keep you small. And you're not small. You're a force. You've lived. You've grown. And that makes you dangerous in the best possible way. Getting back into dating isn't about trying to be who you were before. It's about showing up as the most unapologetic version of who you are now. Confidence doesn't come from external validation. It comes from internal conviction. Do you trust your instincts? Do you own your choices? Are you clear on your boundaries? If the answer is no, let that be your starting point. Because confidence without clarity is chaos. Do you want results? Stop performing. Stop shrinking. Stop adjusting your tone, your dress, your opinions to be more palatable. This isn't about being chosen. It's about choosing. You walk into a date not asking, will they like me? You walk in asking, do they get the honor of experiencing me? That's the shift. And if you're scared to be vulnerable, good. That means you're alive. That means you care. But vulnerability without discernment, that's where people get hurt. So yes, be open, be real, but don't hand over your truth to someone who hasn't earned your trust. Confidence is knowing the difference between openness and exposure. Don't confuse chemistry with compatibility. Just because the conversation flows doesn't mean the connection is right. Emotional maturity, shared values, mutual respect. Those are the real green flags. And you're allowed to say no. You're allowed to walk away. You're allowed to not explain yourself. You're not too late. You're not behind. You're not broken. You are evolving. And the dating world doesn't need you to be perfect. It needs you to be present. Every setback taught you something. Every heartbreak sharpened your intuition. Every quiet night alone prepared you for this moment. This is your edge. Use it. Now, here's your challenge. Stop waiting to feel ready. Ready is a myth. Step in, speak up, show up like you mean it. Own the awkward, lean into discomfort, and don't let rejection define you. Let it refine you, because you're not here to settle, you're here to select. So walk into that next date like someone who knows their worth and refuses to apologize for it. Confidence is the first touch. It's the silent invitation, the unspoken magnetism that draws someone closer without you having to say a single word. It's not about being the loudest in the room or the most physically striking. It's about the energy you bring, the quiet boldness that says, I know who I am, and I'm not here to beg for connection. Before anything physical happens, before fingers trace skin or lips meet lips, confidence is what sets the temperature of intimacy. It's the tension in the air, the look in your eye, the steadiness in your voice when you say what you want or what you don't. Confidence in dating and intimacy isn't built on surface-level validation. It's not sourced from compliments or praise or from how someone else reacts to you. True confidence is felt from the inside out. It's rooted in self-respect. It's the way you carry yourself, the ease in your movement, the ability to take up space, not just physically but emotionally. When you walk into a room and don't shrink. When you speak and don't second-guess your tone. When you flirt without needing approval. That's when desire starts building in the space between you and another. That's when real attraction sparks. And let's be clear, confidence is deeply erotic. It's the internal knowing that your presence is a gift, that your touch has intention, that your yes means everything, and your no is just as powerful. In intimacy, it's what makes you memorable. When you're in your body, when you're grounded in your own pleasure, when you're not rushing or performing or seeking permission, that energy radiates. It makes you magnetic, unpredictable, and grounded all at once. People don't just want to be with you, they want to feel what you're feeling, and that's powerful. A confident person doesn't chase, they attract. They don't try to be liked, they reveal themselves and let the connection decide. Confidence doesn't ask, am I doing this right? It says, this is how I show up. Take it or leave it. And that mindset in intimacy creates an emotional charge that can't be faked. It's what lets you lock eyes across the room and send a message without speaking. It's what makes silence between you feel heavy with tension rather than awkward. It's what makes someone lean in because you're not trying to prove anything. You're just being. You don't need to perform to be desirable. You don't need to be the best version of someone else. You need to be the most honest version of yourself. That's where confidence lives. In authenticity. In honesty. In unapologetic self-possession. When you trust your worth, you stop negotiating your needs. When you embody self-assurance, your boundaries become clear without being rigid. You create safety, not just for yourself, but for the person across from you. And safety, mixed with sensuality, creates the kind of heat that lingers long after the lights go out. Want to be unforgettable in dating and intimacy? Then let confidence lead the way. Let it be in your glance, your laugh, your silence, your stillness. Let it drip from your voice, your touch, your pace. Confidence is not a show, it's an energy, a slow burn, a rhythm that says, this is me, fully present, completely alive, ready but not waiting. Expand key point 2 in relationship and intimacy style, and don't add any ending sentence, and make it lengthy on 500 words without heading, and conclusion, and add hooks. When you drop the act, that's when real intimacy begins. In dating, in sex, in connection, too many people are playing roles they never agreed to audition for. The good girl, the cool guy, the overly available one, the emotionally mysterious. You show up rehearsed, calculated, trying to guess what the other person wants instead of revealing who you actually are. But intimacy doesn't live in perfection, it lives in presence. And presence only happens when you stop performing and start connecting.
You can tell when someone's trying too hard.
The smile that doesn't quite reach the eyes, the overcompensating flirtation, the silence that feels heavy with unsaid fear. There's a difference between seduction and strategy. One flows, the other manipulates. One is a dance, the other is a disguise. You don't build lasting connection through performance, you build it through shared reality. And that requires you to be in your body, not your head. There is something undeniably sexy about someone who is just real, someone who doesn't pretend to have it all figured out, someone who says what they mean without editing themselves for impact. That authenticity becomes magnetic. It's disarming. It invites closeness, curiosity, and trust. You want to feel desired? Show up fully, not flawlessly, not as a highlight reel, but with all your awkward laughter, raw thoughts, and unfiltered charm. That's what people remember. That's what leaves a mark long after the date ends, or the night fades. In bed, performance kills intimacy. Sex becomes choreography. You focus on how you look, how you sound, what you think they expect. Meanwhile, your body is disconnected, your mind is elsewhere, your pleasure is sacrificed on the altar of approval. But when you drop the script, you feel, you breathe, you respond, you explore, you let your natural erotic rhythm emerge. And that's when it gets electric. That's when it becomes more than just physical. It becomes a shared emotional and energetic experience. Most people are terrified of being seen, really seen. That's why they perform. But the paradox is that being truly seen is the thing we crave most. So stop hiding behind curated behavior. Say what you really think. Ask what you really want to know. Let the moment breathe without rushing to fill it. Don't fake interest. Don't force chemistry. Let things unfold with honesty, and the right connection will rise to meet you. This is how you build chemistry that sticks. Not by saying what you think will make them stay, but by saying what's real and watching who stays anyway. That's your person. That's your match. Intimacy isn't about impressing. It's about revealing. Every time you pull back the mask, you give someone the chance to love the parts you thought you had to hide. Every time you lead with truth instead of tactics, you get closer to connection that doesn't burn out after the high fades. Forget being perfect. Be present. Forget being wanted, be witnessed. That's the difference between a good date and a transformative experience, between a moment of pleasure and a memory that lingers in the body, the heart, the breath. You spend key point 3 in relationship and intimacy style, and don't add any ending sentence and make it lengthy on 500 words without heading and conclusion, and add hooks. There's a kind of heat that comes from knowing exactly where you begin and end. That heat, that's boundaries. And yes, boundaries are sexy. They don't kill desire, they fuel it. Because when you're clear about what you want, what you need, and what you will not tolerate, you create safety. And in that safety, real intimacy can breathe, deepen, and explode into something unforgettable. People often mistake boundaries for barriers, as if saying no is a rejection of connection. But it's the opposite. Boundaries aren't walls, they're doors. They show someone how to enter your world with respect, care, and presence. Think about this: when someone expresses what they like, what they don't, what feels good and what doesn't, you don't feel turned off. You feel invited into something real. You feel trusted with their truth. That level of honesty immediately shifts the energy. In dating and intimacy, boundaries are not about control. They are about clarity. They're not cold, they're courageous. And when someone enforces them with grace and firmness, it's incredibly attractive. Because it shows self-awareness, it shows emotional maturity, it shows someone who honors themselves, and that is magnetic. So many people confuse being agreeable with being desirable, but saying yes when you mean no, that kills attraction. It creates resentment, it pulls you out of alignment with your body and into the land of performance, obligation, and silent frustration. And nothing kills intimacy faster than unspoken tension and unmet needs. Boundaries protect your inner world. They let the right people in and keep the wrong ones from draining your energy. They're not just for protecting your body, they protect your heart, your time, your peace, your erotic freedom. A person with boundaries doesn't just say no, they say yes more powerfully. When you're clear on what's off limits, you also become clear about what you're open to. You can explore, experiment, and expand without losing yourself. You can be generous with your intimacy because you're not afraid of being violated or misunderstood. You've set the tone, you've drawn the line, and from there, everything that happens is a choice, not a compromise. In sex, this becomes a whole different level of powerful. When you can look someone in the eye and say, I like this, or I want more of that, or this doesn't feel right for me, you take control of your pleasure. You give your partner a roadmap. You invite them into your world not as a performer or provider, but as a co-creator of experience. And when both people have boundaries, the trust deepens, the connection sharpens, the freedom grows, because now you're both choosing each other, moment by moment, without fear or assumption. There's nothing more intimate than someone showing you exactly how to love them. There's nothing sexier than someone who respects themselves enough to guide you gently but firmly. And there's nothing more freeing than knowing that your no will be honored just as much as your yes. Boundaries don't kill the mood, they build it. They're not a limitation, they're an invitation into deeper, more electrifying intimacy. You said, expand key point 4 in relationship and intimacy style and don't add any ending sentence and make it lengthy on 500 words without heading and conclusion and add 8 hooks. Desire doesn't need permission, it needs ownership. The most electrifying intimacy happens not when you're trying to be wanted, but when you fully own what you want. When you can look someone in the eye without flinching or filtering and say, this is what I like, you're not just expressing a preference, you're standing in your erotic authority. And there is nothing more intoxicating than a person who knows what lights them up and isn't ashamed of it. Sexual confidence isn't about being experienced or skilled, it's about being unapologetically attuned to your own hunger. We live in a world that has taught us to disconnect from desire, to keep it quiet, to water it down, to make it more appropriate. So many people, especially women, have been conditioned to believe that wanting is somehow dangerous, too much, too aggressive, too fast. But let's get something clear. There is no shame in wanting. In fact, there's incredible power in it. Your desires are a gateway to deeper connection, richer pleasure, and more authentic intimacy. When you suppress them, you're not protecting anyone, you're silencing your truth. And in relationships, that silence turns into distance. When you can communicate your desires clearly, you don't just invite pleasure, you invite trust. You create a space where vulnerability becomes connection. You show your partner that your pleasure isn't a mystery to be solved, but a conversation to be had. And in that dialogue, intimacy becomes electric. It's not about demanding, it's not about dominance, it's about invitation. It's about saying, here's what opens me up, here's what makes me feel alive. Want to meet me there? Desire isn't dirty, it's not something to hide behind euphemisms or nervous laughter. It's raw, it's sacred, it's human. When you suppress it, you flatten your energy. You create disconnection, not just with others, but with yourself. But when you embrace it, everything changes. The way you walk, the way you speak, the way you touch, the way you even breathe, it all shifts into alignment with who you really are. You become more magnetic, not because you're trying to impress, but because you're embodied, fully here, fully turned on by your own aliveness. In dating, this kind of clarity is a gift. Too many people are hoping someone will just figure it out. But intimacy is not a guessing game. When you express your needs and turn-ons openly, you set a tone for honesty and growth. You invite someone to actually see you, not a polished version, not a strategic edit, but the real pulsing core of you. And if they can't meet you there, that's not your shame to carry. That's your cue to keep your standards intact and your energy moving forward. You don't have to be loud to be powerful. You just have to be clear about what makes you feel connected, clear about what ignites you, clear about what kind of intimacy you're actually here for. And when that clarity meets courage, you stop waiting to be chosen. You become the one who chooses. You don't tiptoe around your pleasure. You lean into it with presence, with power, and with the kind of confidence that says, I don't need to be tamed, I need to be met. Expand key point 5 in relationship and intimacy style, and don't add any ending sentence, and make it lengthy on 500 words without heading in conclusion, and add deed hooks. There's a different kind of fire that comes alive when emotional safety is present, the kind that doesn't just warm the skin, but melts the armor. In intimacy, the boldest expressions of desire don't come from pressure or performance. They come from feeling safe. Safe to be seen, safe to explore, safe to make noise, take up space, and let your sensuality spill out in its rawest form. When you feel emotionally protected, you stop holding back. You stop second-guessing yourself. You let go. And that release, that surrender, is what takes intimacy from transactional to transformative. Too often, we're told that being bold in the bedroom means being wild, uninhibited, extreme. But what's rarely talked about is how vulnerability is the true unlock. The sexiest moments aren't always the loudest or the most dramatic. They're the ones where two people are emotionally naked, not just physically undressed. Where you can whisper a want without fear of judgment. Where you can change your mind mid-moment and not worry about being resented. Where you can be held, not just with arms but with presence. That kind of emotional container creates the safety for sexual boldness to rise naturally. When you don't feel emotionally safe, your body knows. It tenses, it freezes, it resists, even the most well-intentioned touch. No amount of physical attraction can override the nervous system's truth. But when safety is present, the body responds with ease. It becomes receptive, playful, explorative. You start taking risks, not reckless ones, but the kind that say, I trust this space enough to bring more of myself into it. That's where true intimacy flourishes, in the moments when safety becomes the foundation for daring connection. Creating emotional safety isn't about being soft or overly cautious. It's about being deeply attuned. It's knowing how to listen, how to read the space between words, how to respect boundaries without taking them. It's giving your partner space to breathe, to pause, to feel, without rushing them toward an outcome. In that slowness, erotic intelligence awakens, because now every touch isn't just about stimulation, it's about communication. Every glance, every sigh, every moment of silence holds weight. In dating, emotional safety is the difference between a surface-level fling and a connection that lingers in the mind and body. It's the reason someone will open up, share their fears, reveal their past, or take a chance on deeper intimacy. It's not about being perfect, it's about being consistent. Emotionally safe people don't avoid hard conversations. They create space for them. They don't shut down when things get intense. They lean in with calm, and that steadiness, that presence, that's what invites sexual boldness. That's what makes someone feel free to push boundaries, to explore fantasies, to drop their guard and dive deeper. You want electric sex? Start with emotional grounding. You want a wild connection? Build quiet trust first. Because when you create a space where your partner feels emotionally held, you're not just unlocking their body, you're unlocking their willingness to be fully seen, touched, and cherished. And that creates a level of erotic intimacy that can't be faked, forced, or forgotten. Expand key point 6 in relationship and intimacy style, and don't add any ending sentence and make it lengthy on 500 words, without heading in conclusion, and added hooks.
Rejection.
It stings, it lingers, it echoes in places that feel tender and unspoken. But here's the truth. No one teaches us early enough. Rejection is not a mirror of your worth. It's not proof that you're unlovable, too much, not enough, or broken. In sex, in love, in intimacy, rejection is often misunderstood because we internalize it instead of decoding it. But when you start to see rejection not as a judgment, but as a redirection, everything shifts. The shame falls away, the grip of self-doubt loosens, and you reclaim your power. Piece by piece, moment by moment. Let's talk about dating, the raw, unpredictable terrain where chemistry ignites and sometimes fizzles without explanation. You show up, open your heart, offer pieces of yourself, maybe even your body, and then they ghost, they back away, they choose someone else. The mind starts spinning. Was I not attractive enough? Too intense? Not exciting? That spiral is where your confidence goes to die. But when you reframe the entire experience, you stop viewing rejection as a verdict. It becomes information. It becomes feedback. It becomes protection from what wasn't aligned with the depth and intensity you bring. There's something deeply intimate about owning your response to rejection, not pretending it didn't hurt, not acting unbothered as a performance, but instead saying, this stung and I'm still whole. The ability to feel disappointment without collapsing under it is what separates people who just date from people who master intimacy. You stop needing every interaction to validate you. You stop outsourcing your confidence to someone else's preferences. You begin to see every no as making room for a more powerful yes. In sex, this becomes even more important. Rejection might look like a partner who doesn't want to explore a certain desire, or someone who isn't ready for the depth you're offering. It might be someone walking away after a night of vulnerability and connection. And while the ego might scream, "I wasn't good enough," the truth is far simpler and much less personal. You weren't aligned, and alignment is everything. When it comes to real intimacy, you can't force it, you can't fake it, you can only feel it. And when it's missing, the disconnection will always show itself, eventually. Emotional maturity is being able to say, "That didn't work out, but I learned more about myself because of it." Maybe the rejection revealed your non-negotiables. Maybe it reminded you to listen to your gut. Maybe it exposed places where you were still performing instead of being real. Every experience, even the painful ones, brings you closer to yourself, if you allow it to. And that intimacy with self is what makes you dangerous in the best way, because now you're not afraid to lose what doesn't see you. You're not afraid to walk away from lukewarm attraction or half-hearted attention. Rejection, when faced head-on, becomes a form of self-clarity. It sharpens your edges, it softens your attachment to approval, it calls you back into alignment with what you truly crave. Connection that doesn't need to be chased, intimacy that flows both ways, passion that doesn't require pretending, and a kind of sexual energy that isn't diluted by doubt, but deepened by authenticity.